James Gunn's Superman opens mid-flight. There's no origin story, no slow build-up. The world already knows about Superman and superheroes and metahumans. They're a part of everyday life. It's a confident starting point, skipping the familiar beats in favor of immediate momentum. But that creative choice, however understandable, comes with a bit of a cost. Without a firmer foundation, the film can feel a little bit rushed, even a little emotionally detached. There's a real sense of enthusiasm in how James Gunn approaches this material. This is a comic book movie through and through, colorful, fast-moving, and loaded with humor. And that energy keeps this film afloat. Still, it doesn't always know when to ease off. Just when a scene starts to build emotional weight, it's undercut by a visual gag, a quip, or a sudden pivot into action. It's not that humor doesn't belong here, but the pacing rarely allows for the film's more serious ideas to land with the necessary impact. David Corenswet makes a nice impression. He brings warmth and sincerity to Superman, and the performance reflects a hero guided by compassion and, perhaps to his own detriment, naivety. There's even a nice sense of vulnerability. I just thought it was a bit unfortunate that Clark Kent was kept so far in the background overall. We don't see enough of the quieter, grounded side of this character, leaving us with more of the concept rather than a multifaceted character. I thought Rachel Brosnahan was strong as Lois Lane. She gives the role intelligence and drive, and her version of Lois feels like a journalist through and through, someone for whom reporting isn't just a job, but a core part of who she is. A standout moment early on has Lois interviewing Superman face to face, one of the few moments the film slows down for restraint and character-driven focus. Their romantic relationship, though, for me, it didn't quite connect. It's there in the script, but the chemistry feels tentative, sweet in places, not entirely convincing. And Nicholas Hoult plays Lex Luthor with a simmering, self-satisfied intensity. He's at his most entertaining when things start slipping out of his control, but the film keeps his motivations vague for too long. When we finally get them, it's an exposition dump that reveals a surprisingly thin approach to all the villainy. While Hoult's performance carries the weight, the character, when all is said and done, kinda doesn't. The supporting cast is where the film begins to lose definition. Mr. Terrific has presence and dry wit. Guy Gardner is amusing and brash. Nathan Fillion doing his thing. However, these characters feel more like background dressing rather than truly essential storytelling elements. Isabella Merced's Hawkgirl, for example, serves little narrative purpose beyond filling out the so-called Justice Gang, which is a name that the film seems determined to undercut with jabs again and again. And the character of Jimmy Olsen doesn't fare much better, saddled with a subplot about girl troubles that kind of lands with a thud, even though they're aiming for more humor on that side of things. To be clear, it's not that the performances are lacking, it's more about the sheer number of characters crammed in. With so many introductions and so little time, few of these characters register beyond the surface. However, Krypto, as many will have no doubt surmised from the marketing, is a delight. The superdog barrels through scenes with chaotic energy, managing to be both destructive and utterly endearing. And thankfully, Gunn uses Krypto sparingly, which keeps the character from becoming a gimmick. He adds just the right amount of charm. The action, it's mostly well crafted with sequences that are slickly choreographed and clear to follow. Gunn gives them a good jolt of energy, even if some of those camera moves become a little too hyperactive for their own good. Visually, the film embraces an ultra-vibrant palette, leaning into bold color and heightened style. The CG follows suit, for better or worse. Bright, stylized, and often quite fun to look at. But there's also a cartoon-like quality to it all that, while in keeping with the tone that Gunn is aiming for, tends to take the edge off. All the visual effects are engaging on the surface, but they rarely leave a dent emotionally. The film does reach for bigger ideas: politics, morality, accountability, the loneliness of being the one expected to do the right thing. It even touches on how quickly public opinion can be manipulated and how online narratives can turn heroes into villains overnight. There are real things presented here. The problem is that the film doesn't sit with these ideas long enough to really explore them. They're introduced, nodded at, and then pushed aside as the plot barrels forward. As a reset for the DC universe, Superman does enough to get things moving. It introduces a refreshingly sincere version of the character, sketches out a world with clear potential, and mostly holds together as a piece of energetic, pulp spectacle. Unfortunately, I also found it a bit too cluttered and tonally inconsistent. But overall, in my opinion, Gunn has delivered an often likable film, a promising, if uneven, starting point for what comes next. I'm giving Superman 3.5 stars out of 5.